one of the first things I want to kind of bring up, because it's super important, right? Is like just clarity. I really want you guys to kind of keep it at the top of your kind of priority list when you're posing out your characters, when you're staging, when you're doing your blocking, right? We need to always think about like what's the clearest way to tell our idea. So kind of just ask yourself like, what are you trying to say with that pose, right? What is my character feeling? What are they thinking? What are they doing, right? Be super clear with that. Really rely on like the basics that you learned about posing, and body mechanics. I always tell students like always kind of rely on the foundation that you have. Go back to your earlier notes if you have to, because that stuff about posing, like the basics of posing, is really going to carry you through this term, right? And another thing to ask, like as far as clarity goes, like what are the individual beats and are they clear and distinct, right? I like to think of my shots in like different beats. And I'll kind of be a little bit more, I'll give some examples of that kind of moving forward in this lecture. But really when I think about beats, I just think of like pretty much ideas, like what is this idea? How does it move to the next idea? Are they clear and kind of distinct from one another, right? So they don't kind of like get muddied up and too mixed up together. But you want to be clear about like what that idea was, what this idea is, and what this new idea is. And you usually want to be telling your audience really like one idea at a time. Be clear about what singular idea you're giving to the audience so that they can kind of follow your story, right? And the reason why I'm going to harp on this so much is because if even if your animation is awesome and like you do really cool smear frames and like the most clever stuff, if I don't know what's going on in it, or if your audience doesn't understand what's happening, then all of it's kind of for nothing, right? Like, oh, that looked really cool, but I don't know what just happened. We can't have that in animation because you really only get one chance. When someone's watching a movie, when someone's watching a show, they watch it through one time. They can't like pause it and like rewind it. Well, I guess they can, but you don't want that though. We really need every shot to be crystal clear, the first read. So that's why this is like super, super important, right? This is one of my favorite like Buster Keaton ones. If you guys don't do this, it's super helpful to kind of study like essentially like the greats of this kind of pantomime acting, right? Like they really kind of established some sense of foundation for us to kind of follow. And I really love this shot because I think there's a really a nice clear sense of beats in here and different ideas, and that kind of moves you through one idea to the next. And it's kind of like one idea at a time, right? So we'll kind of watch it through, and then we'll kind of point out. I'll skip through it and point out some of the beats here. Yeah, so it's a super simple shot, and the context of this is always you're just looking for him. He's kind of like this runaway guy, and he can like comes into the frame. But let's watch it one more time because it's so fast. But yeah, there's just like so many good things about this. Let's kind of go through here if I can scrub through it. So we have this first beat, right? Our first beat really is like these two guys. Like there looks like there's some kind of urgency. This one guy rushes in, taps on the shoulder. Obviously, it looks like there's some like immediacy to what's going on here, right? He turns around. They're obviously like talking, discussing with one another. They have this leaned in kind of pose, which again lends to that feeling of urgency and immediacy, right? Like they're not just standing straight up. There's kind of this arc to their pose, which gives us that feeling of urgency, right? So we get that idea. That's one singular idea. Now we can kind of see like this next idea come in, which is the car coming in that drops Buster Keaton off, right? So that's another idea. Like we have the idea of the urgency, another idea of Buster Keaton kind of coming in. And again, these are all just the different beats that were kind of flowing into one another, right? But it's one idea. We get Buster coming in. They realize that he's in there. Now our next beat is what? Like they realize he's in there and they're gonna club him, right? That's one kind of beat, one idea there. It's super clear. I love even like how this is like out in silhouette. It's kind of like a nice pose. He's framed right in the middle of them. They're both kind of like staring. You have the kind of this triangle composition in there. It's really clear, right? And even like what lends to this is why I say like just have a simple grayscale background for now, because even the colors lend to the clarity of this. Like they're in like this like dark suit against this kind of like light background. The silhouette really pops here, right? So it's even more clear to see him in the middle, sandwiched between these two guys have to club him, right? So that's one idea. Our next idea is they totally just completely miss, right, and club each other down. But do you guys are you guys starting to see how it's like there's one idea and then one new idea and one idea, and they're all kind of very clear from one another, right? They get knocked out. He's kind of like looking at them. So here's another nice kind of like key frame here, right? They just knocked each other out. They're both just on the floor, just passed out. He's looking at them, trying to figure out what just happened because the whole time he didn't even know. And then once he realizes it, he just jets, right? So you can really like kind of break down each idea in like a singular frame. Like here's our first idea. Oh, you get back a little bit more. There's our first idea, right? We're looking for this guy with a sense of urgency. Next beat, Buster Keaton comes into the frame. We introduce his character, gets right in the middle, so it grabs our attention, right? The cool thing about that too is like, remember when I said that movement will grab your attention? So do you see how these guys are still in this? They're still, and then the car moves in, and that immediately will grab our attention because like one, it's moving. It's also like right in front of these guys, so it's like we're definitely not going to miss it. But it's important that we notice that Buster comes in, right? We're introducing the main character into our shot, so that's really important. So we keep those guards still. This really big thing moves in front of us to grab our attention. We're not going to miss the fact that a guy just hops off of the car, right? And he lands right in the middle of them. The framing of this, he's like right in the center of them again. Here's our next beat, right? That's another new idea. There's our next idea. There's our another idea, and then our final idea is him just running out of frame, right?